Before there was a nation, there was a spark. Before there were states, there was struggle. And before there was liberty, there was sacrifice. This is the story of a revolution. Not just of armies and battles, but of ideas. Of courage. Of fire. In the mid-18th century, 13 colonies thrived along the Atlantic coast of North America, outposts of British power, yet worlds apart from the crown that ruled them. They traded, they farmed, they lived under the shadow of a king they rarely saw. And for a while, it worked. But the French and Indian War changed everything. Britain, victorious but broke, turned to the colonies for revenue. And with that came a flood of taxes, duties, and restrictions. The Stamp Act. The Townshend Acts. The Tea Act. Each one igniting frustration. Not just over money, but over dignity. No taxation without representation, they cried. But London did not listen. The Boston Massacre stained the snow with blood. The Boston Tea Party sent crates crashing into the harbor. Parliament answered with the coercive acts, the colonies called them intolerable. April 19, 1775. The day the world changed. British troops marched on Concord to seize weapons. But at Lexington Green, they met a band of colonial militiamen, farmers with muskets, unsure whether to fight, or flee. A shot rang out. No one knows who fired it. But that single crack of gunpowder tore a hole in history. The British fell back under relentless fire. From the trees. From the fields. From ordinary people turned patriots. The revolution had begun. In Philadelphia, the Continental Congress gathered. Men of different colonies, backgrounds, and temperaments, brought together by a common threat. Among them, John Adams, sharp, stubborn, unrelenting. Thomas Jefferson, quiet, brilliant, a pen that would one day etch freedom into parchment. Benjamin Franklin, charming, wise, a bridge between old-world diplomacy and new-world idealism. And presiding over the military, George Washington, a Virginian planter, chosen for his stature, his resolve, and his unwavering sense of duty. But even as they fought, many still hoped for peace. A petition was sent to King George III. He refused to even read it. To the king, they were no longer subjects. They were rebels. By 1776, the tide of thought had turned. The dream of reconciliation gave way to the vision of liberty. Jefferson was tasked to write it. A document that would explain, not just to Britain, but to the world, why this rebellion was just. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. On July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was approved. Bells rang. Streets filled. Yet across the ocean, the British Empire prepared for war. This was not just a rebellion now. It was a fight for nationhood. The British struck hard. New York burned. Washington's army, poorly trained and ill-equipped, suffered defeat after defeat. But he did not break. On Christmas night, 1776, while Hessian soldiers slept in Trenton, Washington crossed the icy Delaware River. The surprise attack was swift and total. Victory. A small one, but enough to keep hope alive. Through mud, hunger, and freezing cold, the army endured. Valley Forge was not a battle, it was a crucible. And from it, emerged a new force, trained by the Prussian Baron von Steuben, disciplined, ready. 1777, at Saratoga, General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold clashed with British General Burgoyne. It was a decisive American victory, and it changed everything. Across the Atlantic, France took notice. Benjamin Franklin, ever the diplomat, courted the French court with wit and wisdom. And in 1778, France formally allied with the revolutionaries. Spain and the Dutch would follow. The war had gone global. British resources, already stretched thin, now faced enemies on all fronts. The empire was cracking. But revolution came at a cost, not just in blood, but in families torn apart. Some colonists remained loyal to Britain, loyalists, they called them. Others, neutral, were swept up in the chaos. Native American tribes were divided. Enslaved Africans were promised freedom by both sides, but often betrayed by both. And the revolution's ideals? They did not reach everyone equally. For women, slaves, and the poor, independence was not yet liberty. Still, the spirit spread. A belief in something better. In the power of the people. In 1781, Washington saw his chance. The British General Cornwallis had moved to Yorktown, Virginia, expecting reinforcements by sea. But the French fleet blocked the harbor. Washington and French General Rochambeau moved quickly, surrounding the town. Cannon fire roared. Trenches closed in. For days, the siege tightened. On October 19, 1781, Cornwallis surrendered. British drums played "The World Turned Upside Down." The war was not yet officially over, but its end had been written in the mud of Yorktown. 2 years later, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Britain recognized the United States of America. A republic had been born, not by kings or queens, but by farmers, merchants, and rebels. But the revolution didn't end at the borders of the new nation. It inspired movements across Europe and Latin America. It planted the seeds of liberty around the globe. And yet, it also left questions unanswered. The ideals of equality, justice, and freedom, spoken so boldly, would take centuries to be fully realized. But they had been declared. Written into history. The first step had been taken. The American Revolution was not just a war, it was a gamble. A statement. A vision. A belief that people could govern themselves. That freedom was worth the fight. And though imperfect, incomplete, and unfinished, it lit a flame that still burns. This is how a rebellion became a nation. This is America's Revolution, the fight for independence. If you enjoyed this episode of How America Gained Her Independence, please drop a like, share, and subscribe for more epic journeys into the past. Until next time, stay curious.